All right, film geeks, today's class is all about the fifth and final installment of the Indiana Jones film franchise. Let's talk about it. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of All Right, Let's Talk About It. My name is Savannah. I am your host. I do film reviews and film industry commentary. Woo, y'all, it's been like, 2 weeks since our last episode, so let me catch you up on things. So, our last episode was The Blackening. I was able to see all three big movies that came out that weekend: Elemental, The Blackening, and The Flash. I went and saw The Flash that Sunday. I did not post a review on that. That video would actually get taken down off of YouTube. I'm not interested in playing that game of sensitivity with people and triggers and whatnot. And I don't want to just not have an episode on YouTube, right? I could probably put it on all other platforms, but just leave it off of YouTube. I don't want to do that. So I just said, you know what, scrap it. And whenever I do kind of a mid-year, this is what I've seen thus far kind of episode, talking about the movies that I have seen and, what's coming up in the following year, I think I'll probably mention The Flash then. So after The Flash, I had kind of a Monday to chill and prepare for my big trip to Oklahoma. Did I mention that I was going to Oklahoma? So I drove up to Oklahoma from the city of New Orleans, where I live, to visit some friends. I stayed with them for about 4 days. It was an amazing time. I came back last Saturday, had like the afternoon to chill, Sunday to chill, and then Monday I have been with my church. They had their high school youth conference thing, and I was there for 3 days, from like 8 a.m. until I got home, usually sometime after 9 o'clock. So yeah, that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday was kind of a bit of a chill day. Actually, no, Thursday wasn't chill. I actually went to church again to, watch some of the staff kids. That's what I do from time to time. And then I went and saw Indiana Jones, and that's where we are right now. That's what we're talking about today. So this movie, as far as reviews are concerned, they've been kind of all over the place, because from what I can recall, correct me if I'm wrong, but this movie got a good, immediate response from Cannes. And by immediate, I mean like, movies over, credits are rolling, and then, people are giving their reaction. But the reviews that have come out thus far have been kind of iffy. And it's interesting, people are a little confused, like, why is it like that? I don't understand. So I saw the movie last night. Now, quick disclaimer with me, I am not a big Indiana Jones fan. That's not to say that I don't like Indiana Jones. I've always enjoyed the Indiana Jones movies, but I mean, those types of movies are kind of, one and done for me. I enjoy them the first time I see them, but I'm never like, oh, I want to watch that again. That's not me. Love Harrison Ford, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, John Williams, the great trifecta. I enjoy the work they put out, but in terms of kind of the genre of it all, it's not my thing. It's not really for me. I enjoy it when I see it, but then I'm like, okay, whatever. So I haven't seen the original Indiana Jones movies in a very, very long time. And then the fourth film, the one with Shia LaBeouf, that came out, I think, 2008, I saw that once when it came out in theaters, and I enjoyed it when I saw it. But that was it. And I was kind of reluctant. I was like, okay, I hope I'm able to follow along with what's happening in this movie. But here's the thing I've always liked about the Indiana Jones movies is that while this character is consistent through all the movies, and we know who he is, what he's about, what he does, each movie is very different from the other. You don't really have to watch every single movie to kind of get what's happening in the third. Like when I saw the fourth one about the Crystal Skull, I think, I can't remember the exact title. And I hadn't seen the originals again for a very, very long time. But when I went to see the movie, it was very easy to just kind of fall into it. Very easy. And the same thing with this movie. Again, haven't seen the originals for a very long time, but it was very easy to just fall into the groove of things. The director here did a very good job, I think, of giving us a little bit of exposition as to who Indiana Jones is, where he's been, and where he is now in his life, without giving us too much explanation, kind of letting the elements and details of his life tell that story. I loved that part of it. So this is not going to be a super long take. I don't think there's a whole lot to be said here. I only have a couple of things to say. So we're just going to get straight to it. Y'all ready? Let's go. So, this is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, directed by James Mangold, not Steven Spielberg. So, Steven Spielberg has directed the first 4 films, but not this one. And I told myself last night when I got home from the movie theater that I was going to look up and see why he didn't direct. But somebody decided they wanted to get into a whole car accident on Highway 90 on the Mississippi Bridge coming from the West Bank back to New Orleans, which, par for the course. And usually it's just one accident, but there was 2. I'm like, first I was like, okay, well, why are we like all stopped in traffic over a fender bender, like, okay, like the sky is blue, the water is wet, like this is normal New Orleans stuff, like why is this halting traffic? But then there was something about a school bus, like a random school bus in the dark, with windows busted out. I have no idea what happened, but it was in the middle of the road, blocked traffic. I didn't get home till almost midnight, and I was ready to crash. So I have no idea why Steven Spielberg did not direct this movie. I would love to know the answer to that. I imagine it may be a schedule thing, a schedule conflict, or maybe he just didn't want to. Because, The Fabelmans came out last year, and then West Side Story the year before that. 2 very big projects. And The Fabelmans is, a personal project, a pet project, something he's been working on for years and finally came to fruition. So I imagine maybe it was a scheduling conflict kind of thing. And George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, because these are characters created betwixt the 2 of them, really had a hand in producing this film and, whatnot. I think they were both executive producers in a way, so they helped provide some of the funding, and then John Williams provided the score. Yay. So, directed by James Mangold, stars the lovely Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Antonio Banderas. It took me forever watching this movie to place his face. I haven't seen him in a long time. So Antonio Banderas in my head is still a very young man. It never occurred to me these people get old. So I'm trying to figure out who this man is. He sounds familiar. He looks familiar. He feels familiar. Credits roll, Antonio Banderas. I felt very sad with myself. This also stars John Rhys Davies, Boyd Holbrook, Oliver Richards, Mads Mikkelsen, Allah Safi. This has a very nice cast. So what is this about? So, Professor Jones is in his old age. He is retiring from teaching college classes and whatnot, and he's going through a divorce. We learned that his son has died in war. This takes place around the time of the moon landing, so late 60s, right? 68, 69? I always get my MLK and moon landing years mixed up. I know one of them 68 and one of them 69. Don't come at me, okay? Hey, I got the decade right, at least the right half of the decade. But I always get those 2 years mixed up for whatever reason. So that's where this is taking place. That is the setting here, is the moon landing. And literally, the moon landing is the setting here. This is the backdrop for the story. We know this is a significant time in history, transition in the way we understand our world and our place in the universe, right? Just how large and vast this world is, and the fact that we can literally just kind of get out and just touch it. Interesting backdrop for where the story takes place. And he ends up meeting his goddaughter, whose name is Helena. I just forgot it for a hot second. And they're talking about this old device that he found once upon a time that he stole from a Nazi train. Because, Indiana Jones is all about being, finding the lost artifacts, rescuing things, sending them to museums, and then, defeating Nazis. And turns out she's a bit of a crook. She doesn't have the best of intentions with this. She wants to auction it off, sell it, and get the cash. And now Indiana Jones is kind of caught in this mix between the CIA and the Nazis, who are trying to retrieve the artifact that they originally stole, because this artifact is kind of a dial, and it's a half of a dial. And so they want that first half, and then they want to find the second half, put it together to complete this little mini machine that was made over 2,000 years ago that can predict elements in the future, but also bring you back to the past. And this Nazi man wants to rewrite wrongs that he was a part of. That's his whole goal here. Interesting concept. The story in and of itself is good. Harrison Ford is his wonderful. So we love Harrison Ford, right? I feel like he's just kind of a household name. He's one of those actors that we all just kind of love for no good reason. We just love him. I mean, he's intergenerational. He's cross generational. He's multi generational. He is, I think everyone alive has a somewhat parasocial relationship with Harrison Ford, right? Am I wrong? We've come to really just love and appreciate all that he has contributed to much of our childhoods growing up. Whether you grew up with Star Wars, Indiana Jones, or some of his more racier stuff in the 90s, romantic dramas, romantic thrillers. We've really come to kind of just love and appreciate him. And then with the resurgence of Indiana Jones and Star Wars and all that jazz, like we've really just come to love and appreciate all this man has done throughout our lives, our children's lives. We love him, right? I think he's wonderful in this. Now, this is the part where it gets a little weird for me. And this is why I say there's not much to say. The movie by itself, I mean, just the mechanics of it all, the technical stuff, it's solid. This reminded me of kind of the old live action Disney circa, 2003, 2004, 2005, thinking about, Pirates of the Caribbean when those movies came out. And there was this, attention to crisp little detail and colors, something that's very much lacking from a lot of these new live action films coming from Disney, where they can't seem to figure out what to do with color, which is so weird because it was color that kind of birthed Disney. Disney was doing his thing with, little Mickey shorts here and there in the 20s. And then in the 30s, when we start to incorporate sound and we start to incorporate color, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs comes out and it's, whoa, it's incredible. But Disney, as of late, can't seem to figure out what to do with the details, can't seem to figure out what to do with color. But this isn't quite Disney, okay? This is distributed by the Walt Disney Company, but this is Lucasfilms. Lucasfilms is under the Disney umbrella, owned by Disney, but it's still its own little entity. That's the thing with these subsidiaries. I mean, you can take a look at the things that Disney controls and things that Disney owns, but these are not all the same creative minds. It's not like you have all this crossover here. Lucasfilms does something different. Disney does something different. Marvel does something different, yet they're all under the same Disney umbrella. And while they're all doing different things visually, there's still something that kind of connects them that's led to this kind of mediocre arc that Disney has had the last several years, where it's like, okay, Marvel has been doing the dang thing for a while. Lucasfilms has been doing the dang thing since before I was born. What is it with Disney? And the only thing that connects all of these things is Disney. Disney can't seem to get itself together narrative wise. And that's the problem with this movie. Visually, the movie is beautiful. Sound is great. The acting is great. The film moves very well. It's constantly moving, a lot of action. So for you people with young kids wondering, how is my child going to be engaged? They may not get the story, but they're going to love the action. This movie's constantly moving. And then I think for people who love to kind of explore, there is kind of that element in there. However, this movie just kind of lacks something. And I've been trying to figure out since last night what it is this movie is lacking. There's something that's just missing from the story. The narrative is there. We have all the right characters and all the right pieces, but there's something about the story that's missing, a heart. This movie lacks heart. There's something soft and empathetic that's missing from this thing that only Steven Spielberg can bring, which is why I asked why he wasn't part of this picture. Because James Mangold is not a terrible director. He's a good director. He has a great resume, but he's not Steven Spielberg. And there's something that Steven Spielberg brings to a family picture that no one else can seem to do. There's a heart and a sense of empathy and love that he kind of brings to the story that brings you into it and that connects you to it. That's missing from this. And it kind of put me at a distance. I was watching these events take place, but I wasn't really engaging in it. I wasn't really brought in or drawn in. There was nothing in me that was really kind of participating in the action. You know what I mean? That was kind of not there. And I think that's the issue that a lot of people are having with this movie. The action is there, but that heart is missing. That kind of makes it a little more extra. I think there was potential for this to kind of be a movie of the year kind of deal, but I'm not seeing that in the final product because that heart is missing. Really, that's all I have to say about this. I think if you're an Indiana Jones fan, if you are a big Indiana Jones fan, I don't know if you'll like this or not, because there's that heart of the story that I think that connects you to it after all these years, and it's not here. And I think that's going to bother you. I think it's going to bug you a little bit. The action is there. It moves, it has that kind of old school 80s action feel to it with a little bit of modernness to it that makes sense in this modern age. It doesn't, dig too deep in the nonsensicalness of the 80s that made sense at the time, so nonsensical that it just doesn't make sense in 2023. It kind of blends that, I think. And it's colorful, it's beautiful, it's bright, it's bold. The details are very crisp, but that heart is missing. So I'm not sure if you'll like it or not. If you're not a big Indiana Jones fan, I think you'll notice something's missing, but I don't think you'll care too much. I mean, it's a ride of a film. It's a good ride. It's just missing that heart, and that's noticeable. And it's interesting though, because these are known for being very action packed, loud, crazy, adventure kind of movies. But that the heart of a movie, God, there's a word for it, but I can't find it. Let me know in the comment section what you think this word might be. That the heart of the movie is what's made it so, what's given it the longevity. Does that make sense? And it almost makes me mad. I think this is the problem with Disney. I think if Disney had stayed away from Lucasfilms, I think if Steven Spielberg had been, said either direct this or it's not happening, we would have been given a completely different movie. There's something about Steven Spielberg as a director that he understands that a movie is not something that you watch, it's something you experience. It's something that you don't just sit there and you look at it, but you interact with it. It's an interactive experience. And he knows how to do that, I think. And that was just missing from this. It just was. I'm not sure what else to tell y'all about it. Other than, now we're being told this is the 5th and final installment of the Indiana franchise, but a lot of people, the talk that I'm seeing, a lot of people seem to think that Phoebe Waller-Bridge, her character Helena Shaw, might be the next Indiana Jones if they ever decide to revive or bring back this franchise or whatever, that they might use her character to build it. I think they're kind of setting us up for that in this movie, setting us up to kind of really connect more with her than with Harrison Ford. Does that make sense? And to kind of get us used to the possibility that she might be what comes next. I kind of hope not. I don't really like her character. I just didn't like her. It wasn't just that she was a thief. I think there's a redeeming arc in that plot, in that part. Although I'm really sick to death of villain adjacent people being given some kind of character arc. Why can't they just do bad things because they want to and just leave them that way? Some people just don't become good. Okay, not everybody needs a character arc. Okay, but anyways, I digress. It wasn't even because she's the thief at the beginning and she kind of sort of gets a heart of gold. I just did not like her character at all. I just didn't like her. And so I hope if they decide to bring back Indiana Jones, it's 100 years from now when I'm dead and gone, and all of us are dead and gone, and we just don't remember, and we can't be mad about it. But I don't think it would be I don't think anything good would come out of them trying to make a female Indiana Jones. Can I say something controversial for a hot second? Or can I do that? I'm gonna do that. So here's a controversial part, and let me know what you think. Now, we've had many conversations about race swapping, right? Little Mermaid, Tinkerbell, and now there's, the conversations surrounding the How to Train Your Dragon live action film, even with Lilo and Stitch, because apparently this woman who is playing Nani isn't dark enough. I mean, crazy, right? But here we are. So we've had those conversations, and then you want to talk about gender swapping, which is something I feel like we've been dealing with longer than the whole race swapping issue. And I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not interested in seeing a female Indiana Jones. I'm just not interested. Here's the thing, and I know people don't want to admit it. They want to pretend like it doesn't exist. It's not real, but men and women are different, and men and women are perceived differently. And our roles, the way we function in society, the way we make society work, women and men have different roles and we do things differently. That doesn't make one better than the other. That just means we have strengths that men don't. Men have strengths that we don't. It's a beautiful complementary thing. And I hate that we're living in a society right now that wants to run away from that, that seeks to try to masculinize women and feminize men in order to kind of upset that balance. But the thing is, that can only go on for so long before society has to right itself. And then where are we? But we're seeing this a lot in film where we're seeing, and I talked about this in the Elemental review, where I'm really getting sick and tired of Hollywood just stripping the femininity out of women. And I got a lot of that from Helena Shaw, Phoebe Waller-Bridges' character, where they just kind of stripped some of the femininity out of her to make her kind of neutral because she wasn't quite masculine. I think about, Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. And nobody likes her character, which sucks for her because, this is Marvel, it's comic books, it's personal for people. So a lot of that transference, people don't like Captain Marvel, therefore they don't like Brie Larson, and it sucks for her. Again, she's an incredible actress. I've been a fan of Brie Larson since I was like high school, okay? When she was itty bitty and doing music. I still bump her album on my iPod. Well, iPhone, but, iPod, whatever. And she's very talented, gifted, Academy Award-winning actress. She deserves all her accolades, but unfortunately, she was done super dirty in Captain Marvel. But they stripped a lot of the femininity out of that character, and I think that's what really bothered people. There was something unbalanced there, and you know it and you recognize it. And even when you're living as a woman, you're living out of balance, you notice, and it's irritating. And there was something about this character that just seemed out of balance. And personally, I'm just sick and tired of Hollywood just saying women aren't wonderful as they are, that there's something wrong with the way women are, that we're better women when we're less feminine, we're better women when we're more masculine, or we're better women when we're a little more neutral. It's irritating. I'm sick of seeing it. And the same thing goes for men. I think people are kind of tired of it, and I don't think they realize why they're tired. But there's something that's kind of out of balance. And I don't want to see that done to the Indiana Jones franchise. I think they're thinking about it. I think they're considering it because Disney at this point really doesn't know what to do. They're at a loss. That's why we're seeing so many remakes and sequels. They don't know what to do. They've lost that creative edge. They haven't quite figured it all out. And I know someone's thinking, what if we take her and just make her the new Indiana Jones? Don't do it, Disney. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just, that's all I got to say. All right, so if I had this in video format, I'd have a big chyron or a big title on the screen that says the Parental Unit. That is what I'm calling this part of the podcast until I can find a better name for it. But this is for parents who are wondering, is this appropriate for my child? I believe this movie is rated PG-13. So, I don't know. I'm so weird. See, here's my struggle with doing this, but I want to provide this service and I want to get better at, paying attention to these kinds of things in movies, which is why I'm doing this. So this is me kind of growing as I go, right? My mom didn't really have any boundaries with respect to me in film. For those who know, I've been watching horror movies since I was 5 or 6 years old, but I also grew up in the 90s where parents cared less about stuff like that. Now, and I could handle it and I was fine. Never mind when my mom took me to see Child's Play 3 in theaters and I cried 5 minutes in because, Chucky was big. Before that, I'd only seen Chucky on the TV and I was bigger than the TV. Now Chucky was bigger than me and I was a little scared, but we've been best friends since then. Chucky and I, we worked out our differences and we've been best friends ever since, friend till the end and all that jazz. So me kind of like pushing that aside and having to think like a parent and realize that not every child was like me, where they could handle stuff like that. Not every child can. And then this being 2023, where parents are a little more aware and a little more vigilant as to the media that their children consume. So if you have a child under the age of 10, I think they'll be fine. Now, if you haven't explained certain aspects of history to them, like, the Holocaust, Hitler, Nazis, just be prepared to have those conversations. There was actually a critic who was like, here, can we have another movie where no one explains why the Nazis are bad? You shouldn't have to, it's 2023, ma'am. You shouldn't have to explain why the Nazis are bad. If you don't know why the Nazis are bad, you need to spend less time in a movie theater and more time in a library. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So if you are a parent of a young child and they might ask you about that, why the Nazis are bad, or what does this mean, or who is Hitler. So just to be prepared to maybe have some of those conversations, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. There are, guns and explosions, and people do die in the movie. People getting shot, blood, whatnot. So that is there. The language in this isn't terrible. From what I can remember, it's not bad at all. So I don't think that's something you have to worry about. But I do think you just have to worry about some of the more historical elements that your child may not understand, that might go over their head a little bit. Nothing for you to worry about. Just be prepared to have that conversation. No big deal. I don't think anyway. And then, the blood and killing and people getting shot, high-speed car chases, and, um, you know, underwater deep dives, eels, bugs, stuff that wouldn't freak out a parent, but it freaked me out. Okay. There was a scene with eels, and me and the lady next to me, we were both just like, ugh, just holding our hands onto the screen, like, leave me alone, get away from me. There were centipedes and spiders, and it was gross. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that. And, there is a big war scene at the end that's kind of cool. That was probably another thing about the movie that I thought was a little cheaply done. It looked like something off of Discovery ID, but so yeah, there is that part, whatnot, and people putting themselves in dangerous situations. I think even though the movie is rated PG-13, if your kid, I say, is 8 years old, I think they'll be fine, especially if you've shown them the Indiana Jones movies before. This isn't completely out of the realm. This isn't, 2023 Hollywood level violence. I don't think. I think this really just kind of falls in line with what we've seen from the previous Indiana Jones movies. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any other questions, but yeah, I would mark this safe for your kid. Want to advertise on this podcast? Check the episode description to see how you can be featured on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to me rant and rave about another movie. So that was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, directed by James Mangold, starring Harrison Ford. Just to sum it all up, I thought it was a fun ride of a movie. It was just missing heart, something that emotionally connects the audience to the characters. So that was my only grief. But other than that, I had a good time. So what's coming up next? I am seeing, I think it's called The Sound of Freedom, with Jim Caviezel, the man who played Jesus in Passion of the Christ. I should know the man's name, because oh my goodness, did I have a crush on that man when I was younger. Whew, I was in love with him. Then he played Jesus and I felt guilty. But yes, I'll be seeing that on Monday. It's a limited release that I think comes out on July 4th. So if you haven't gotten your tickets for that, I would highly recommend getting it. This movie is going to be about child trafficking. So I'll actually give that review to you Friday, but I'll be seeing that early Monday morning. What's coming up also next week is Insidious. I believe this is the 5th film in the Insidious franchise. Chronologically, it's a little weird. So there is a 4th one I actually have not seen. I need to see it. Don't ask me why I didn't see it. I don't remember. 2018 was a year. That was a year. That was a rough year. And these movies tend to come out pretty early in the year. I think that one came out January, if I'm not mistaken. I can look it up. Yep, January 5th. So yeah, beginning of January for me in terms of life in 2018 was just rough. So yeah, I didn't do much of anything other than go to work and go to church. But I'll just have to find it somewhere, watch it real quick, and then watch Insidious 5, The Red Door, on next Thursday. However, I'm pretty sure I do not have to watch the 4th one in order to understand what's happening in the 5th one. Now, again, chronologically, these are a little weird. So you have Insidious 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now 5, right? But chronologically, the way this works, it's Insidious 3, 4, 1, 2, 5. So 5 is going to pick up where the second one left off, kind of like 10 years later. So we're back with the family, the original family. And that's, young Dalton, and after his whole experience of, being in what they thought was a coma, but not. So yeah, we're going back to that family, and that's where this 5th one picks off. So if you're someone like, well, I haven't seen the latest ones, you don't need to. You only need to see Insidious 1 and 2, which are on HBO Max, in order to understand what's happening in the 5th. 2 and 3 are chronologically before 1 and 2 take place. Does that make sense? So if you're wanting to watch these movies in chronological order, it's 3, 4, 1, 2, 5. That makes sense? So yeah, that's what's coming up. I think I mentioned before, I got my ticket for Oppenheimer. My best friend is coming in that week. So we're going to see that together, and I'm going to make her co-host this podcast with me that day because she'll be in town. She already knows. Now, I have to talk her into also seeing Barbie the same day we see Oppenheimer. I don't think she'll care though. I mean, it's Louisiana. It's still going to be hot. We're not going to be we're not going to want to be outside too much. And yeah, we're just hanging. So yeah, I have to find a way to make her want to see 2 movies with me in one day and then record 2 podcasts with me. That'll be fun. She doesn't know yet. I also don't know if she listens to my podcast or not. I don't care if she does or doesn't. That's a spider. Anyways, yeah, sidetrack. So Oppenheimer, Barbie, Mission Impossible comes out as well that same week. I forget what comes out the week in between, but I'm really looking forward to Oppenheimer. That's going to be my first IMAX experience, and I'm so excited. Yeah, I've never seen a movie in IMAX. I've never wanted to because, again, up until October of last year, I've been paying for my own movie tickets, right? Now I have AMC A-List where I can see up to 3 movies a week for free. So I was like, hey, I'm not paying anything extra with this. I may as well go see something in IMAX. Now I'm obsessed with Prime at AMC, which has kind of a surround sound, so you can really feel the bass and the music and the boom in movies. That has been fun. I've seen a couple of movies in Prime. I saw Elemental in Prime, The Flash in Prime, and then Indiana Jones last night in Prime. And then I'll see Oppenheimer in IMAX, and I'm really looking forward to that experience because I know Christopher Nolan is a stickler for how his movies are shot and how they're experienced, and he intentionally shoots for IMAX. So I want to see it that way. Now I'm getting on a little nerdy tangent. That's what's coming up, and golly, I'm looking forward to getting out of the month of June and into July. God bless America and all that jazz. So I hope you all have an amazing weekend. Enjoy the first day of July. And if you're in Louisiana, stay cool because, oh my gosh, y'all, it's hot. Can I rant for a hot second? I'm in South Louisiana, right? New Orleans, very South Louisiana. And it is disturbingly hot. Now, it's normally hot every summer. No big deal, okay? But we've had excessive heat warnings every single day for almost the last, gosh, I want to say maybe 2.5 weeks. Where, the dial says 97 degrees. We're like, oh, but it's going to feel like 120. And it does. It's a different kind of heat. Now, some people have said it feels more humid. To me, it feels like more of a dry heat. And I don't like it. I'd rather take humidity where I feel like I just am just swimming in sweat all day as opposed to this drier heat. I don't like it. But yeah, say a prayer for us. And if you're in Louisiana, stay cool. Love y'all much. And I will see y'all next week.